Welcome to Freedom Cast, where your hosts, Jordan and Miranda, show you how to get just a little bit more out of life. Are you ready to leave normal behind?
Good day, Freedom Casters. We got a special guest on the show for you today. Her name is Kaela Savage. She's a good friend of Miranda and me, and we are super excited just to interview her, to get to talk with her about her job in the ICU, her move from Michigan not too long ago, and just her general positive outlook on life. We love talking to Kaela. We love hanging out with her. We just enjoy her friendship, and we are super excited to give you this interview. And thanks, Kaela, for coming on the show. We appreciate the time you spent with us. We know your time is precious with having a lot of days straight to work in the ICU, so we just wanted to say thanks again. And Freedom Casters, enjoy this episode. There's going to be a lot of good stuff in it. We were very happy to have it done, and we just can't wait for you to hear it. So just buckle up, listen in. Hey, Kaela, thank you so much for coming on to Freedom Cast with me and Miranda. We're super excited to have you here just to talk to you about a number of topics, but really just to get to know you a little bit better, to share with our audience some of the cool stuff that you have going on. And we just thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited, and I feel really honored that you guys asked me to be a part of this.
Ooh, honored.
Ooh, she's honored.
I'm honored.
Wow.
And Kaela, yes, like so many other people we've had on our podcast.
Yet again.
We met through Camp Gladiator. So that seems to be a common trend. We meet really cool people through Camp Gladiator. So another CG shout out.
I feel like all the cool people come from Camp Gladiator.
Yeah, I heard that. The what?
Yeah. Everyone's giving a what.
That was for Chad.
That was for Chad, in honor of Chad. So just to start, can you just tell our listeners just a little bit about yourself? Just, a basic introduction.
So as you know, my name's Kaela. I moved here from Michigan about 3 years ago with my brother. My family just recently all moved down here. I work as a nurse at Carolina's Medical Center and just living my best life. Bought a house down here pretty recently with some big accomplishments I've been working towards, trying to work towards that house on Lake Norman. Not really quite there yet, but happy to be here.
I like it. I like the big goals.
Yeah, you gotta dream.
Exactly.
Yes. I didn't actually realize that you had a house. That's awesome.
Yeah, bought it about 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
So I know you just recently made the switch to working the night shift, ICU. Can you tell us what made you decide to make such a drastic switch and kind of how it's been going so far? Because I'm sure it has been quite an adjustment.
So I used to work day shift in a unit called Progressive, which is kind of like an intermediate level of care. It's not quite ICU, but it's not quite the floor. So you have sick patients, but not as sick as intensive care a lot of times. But I want to go back to school to study anesthesia and be what's called a CRNA, which is Certified Registered Nurse Anesthetist. Mouthful to say.
Oh, yes, that is. You said that very well. I'm impressed. I don't think I could do that. I was going to try to say it back. I don't think.
Yeah, I was too. I was like,
nope, can't do it.
Can't even remember it now.
Yes. But in order to actually go back to school for that, you have to have 18 months of ICU experience under your belt. And unfortunately, with my transition to the unit that I wanted to go to, the day shift positions are open based on seniority. So in that unit, I don't have any seniority. So I start off on night shift, which is okay because it's a little bit slower paced. You have less rounding and stuff with physicians, less traveling throughout the hospital with those super sick, unstable patients. But it's tougher in a lot of ways. Your life on night shift is an adjustment for sure. But the reason I switched was to potentially go back to school if I get accepted into the program.
That's awesome. We just love hearing about people doing big switches and reaching for goals, and we just think that's so cool.
Yeah, because you can talk a little bit more about it if you want, but I can't imagine that was an easy decision. And then even probably at first, your initial transition, I feel like I would have had thoughts like, what the heck am I doing? How am I going to do this and whatnot? Did you have those kind of thoughts? Or maybe you were like, no, I got this. I'm good.
Yeah, I think one of the hardest parts about being a nurse and entering, like, I was very comfortable where I was before. I was precepting
Gotcha.
people. I had been there for 2 years. I knew exactly what kind of patients to expect when I walked in the door, and I knew I could kind of predict what problems I was going to encounter throughout my shift. And when I switched to ICU, it's a whole new patient population with all new devices, all new doctors, all new people. And there's a lot of pressure as a nurse to just know everything about every patient. And the truth is, we don't know a lot of the times. It's a lot of investigating, a lot of questions from experienced nurses, and a lot of help just from the team. But to transfer into that position where your patients are so unstable and they're counting on you to be a quick thinker, act quickly, and just have a set knowledge base, it's tough. It's a lot of, I think it's mostly self-pressure, because I think we all perform very well, but just knowing that someone's well-being is depending on how well you know your stuff is always very intimidating.
Yeah, I think that's so cool because, I mean, for me, I work at a greenhouse, so it's like the worst that can happen is like my plants die, but it's just like a totally different level what you're doing, and I think that's something that's just so neat. And I think you really do have to be called to that because, you know, that is a lot of pressure you're putting on yourself, a lot of pressure from the people around you, just to be on it nonstop and stay on your game, even though it's 2 a.m. and, you know, you've been working for so many hours. So I think that's really neat.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Kaela, how have you felt like you've adjusted to doing the night shift and kind of having that as your life? I think, you know, me and Miranda cannot really relate to that, but in a way, I mean, I'm sure we talked to you about the fact that we were on call 4 nights a week when we were at our retirement community. And it's just it was a life change and it was a shift. Do you feel like you've been able to kind of acclimate to that, or how have you adjusted to that change?
I feel like I kind of go through phases. When I first started, I was not sleeping, but I still was like in that high energy adrenaline rush kind of mode where I was like, I have so much to learn. I have so much I need to figure out how to do. I need to learn where things are. So it was just constantly go, go, go. And I don't think I really had enough time to realize like, hey, it's 3:00 in the morning right now. But now that I've kind of figured out my own way, some shifts I feel really good, and other shifts I struggle a lot, especially from that 2 to 5 o'clock mark is a little rough. But I try to clump my days together as much as possible and give myself long stretches of days in between off where I can switch back to day shift, because it's very isolating to work night shift unless you have other night shift friends, because everybody else doesn't live the night shift life. So kind of just trial and error, seeing what works for you, trying different sleeping concoctions like melatonin or sleepy time tea, turning off the TV.
That stuff is very good.
Yes, absolutely.
And I know you still are, you have a big focus on your health still too. How do you find the motivation to go and work out even after a long shift and after you've been awake for so many hours? Where do you pull that motivation from?
I think, as you guys mentioned earlier, the CG people are just so cool and so refreshing to be around and very inspiring in and of themselves. So it's just, you kind of pick up on that from them. And the toughest part is making yourself go there. Once you're there, it's like, okay, I got this. I'm with awesome people. They're all encouraging me. I'm making steps to better myself. And in the long run, it's just going to make everything I do better. So it's kind of just remembering that and pushing yourself to sit through that morning traffic and just actually get there. Because I know once I'm there, I'm going to love it.
Yeah, I tried to go last night and there was traffic and I turned around. But I tried.
Hey, at least you tried. You put the effort in.
That is kind of crazy to go that far and not even be able to.
I didn't make it far. I didn't even make it on the main road. It was all backed up.
Well, you know, when traffic's that bad, you're like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Kaela, when did you realize that you had a passion for helping people? Because I think that definitely in your line of work, you kind of have to have that. I mean, would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
You
I
have
think,
to have it. So yeah,
yeah.
where did you find that, or yeah, when did you discover that you had that kind of, within yourself?
Um, I think it's just kind of one of those innate things that people are born with. And I think what made me realize it more so was that other people around me always started calling me like a caregiver. I had a best
Okay.
friend in elementary school that was in a relatively unstable, not always safe home environment. And I remember one time he told me that there was someone in his house and he felt unsafe. So I got on my bike and
Wow.
biked over to his house and went and got him and brought him to my
Wow.
house. Yeah. So it's just, I don't think that you really think about it. It's just something that you just are. And it comes out in certain times and people notice it and kind of tell you. That's been my experience with it anyways, but I've always been that way. I'm an older sister. I definitely care about my brother 99% of the time, which he, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's
Sean is
always been
awesome.
kind
We
of
love
me.
Sean.
He is.
Yeah.
He is
Every
awesome.
time
He's
we
an
see him
awesome
at
guy.
camp, we get excited because we're like, Sean's here. It's just he just has a
There's
fun,
a-
like goofy energy that we
Oh
like.
yeah. Yes. And he's a super motivated person. So if you're ever like running next to him, man, does he push you to run faster? Because he's just like booking it and you're like, all right, if he can do it, I need to do it.
Yeah, I remember like when Sierra would say, "We're gonna push ourselves till we throw up today," and no one else took that to heart except for Sean. And he was like, "Yeah, I threw up in the bushes back there. We're good, right? We're good." And I was like, "Oh man, like I was not gonna puke." Yeah, he was like, it was like 100 degrees. He's like, "I don't care." I was like, "Okay, yeah, you're definitely motivating, dude, but I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
throwing up."
Absolutely.
So did you always know you wanted to kind of go into the health field, or were you kind of undecided kind of growing up, or did you always kind of have a vision of what you'd be doing? 'Cause I know for me, I still have no idea what I want to do, and growing up, I had no idea. So I always like to hear if people, if you kind of had that vision, from the start, from the get-go, or has it kind of, over the years kind of shown up?
You don't want to grow plants for the rest of your life, Miranda?
I don't think so.
That's very therapeutic too, though. So I think
It
it's
is.
great.
It really
therapeutic.
is.
To answer your question, I kind of went through some phases throughout my life where I thought I might want to do different things. I went through a sales and advertising phase. I did that in high school and really liked it. But I realized very quickly that I never wanted to live in the city, and I felt like a majority of my opportunities at that time would be in the city. So I kind of started switching gears, taking different science courses in high school, and I took anatomy and physiology, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. This is so interesting. And like microbiology, and I just fell in love with medical science, and I already wanted to do something that involved taking care of other people, so it just seemed to fall into place. And a lot of people are like, well, why didn't you be a doctor? I was like, well, I want to kind of be at the bedside and like be with the patients and bond with them and see them improve. So
Yeah, especially if you have that caring personality. I feel like as a doctor, it's more you pop in for 5 minutes and then you're gone,
Exactly.
but you get to
Get some
build the
orders.
relationship. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like you'd have to have your own practice or have a very niche field to be able to be a doctor and have that relationship too. I think there's places out there where you can do that. But yeah, for the most part, I'm sure that's what it is. It's like, hey, what's your problem? Okay, let me see if I can fix it. Okay, bye. And then
Absolutely.
it's just unfortunate that the medical kind of system has turned into that, but it is what it is, you know what I mean? But that's why we have people like you, Kaela.
Oh, thanks, guys.
So I want to jump a little bit because
How about we hurdle?
That's a hurdle. Wait, you want to?
No, you can do
question?
whichever question.
Okay.
I'm just was trying to be funny. It wasn't funny. It's all right.
I laughed,
Thank you.
Jordan.
Brandon just looked at me like I was
just
crazy.
Confused. it was over my. I wanted to jump to Michigan. I want to talk about Michigan for a little
Great.
bit.
Oh,
So,
my favorite.
Yes, because we, as you know, we're in Pennsylvania and we moved down here. What is your perspective for moving from Michigan? Do you love it down here way more? Would you ever go back? How was that transition dealing with people, the Southern people?
Yeah. And I know you said, Caleb, how long ago was it? I just can't remember what you said.
About like 2.5, 3 years from now.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay,
Yeah.
just about the same as us.
We're similar time frames.
Everyone has moved from somewhere else. It's crazy.
I know, yeah.
I think I love Michigan and I love it here. In a way, I kind of feel like I have two homes. When I'm here, I miss my family and my friends in Michigan, but when I'm in Michigan, I miss my family and my friends here. So it's kind of just like I have hearts in two places, it seems like. I don't think I would ever move back to Michigan purely because my parents are here and my brother's here and my cousins. One of them, who's like my sister, just had 2 babies and they're going to grow up here. And I just don't think I would ever be able to leave them. I also don't miss negative 30-degree weather. I am not about that life anymore. But I love North Carolina. I think a lot of the transplants here make it a good blend of the North and the South. And I love the area that we live in particular, because it's close to the lake, which is like my home in Michigan. And there's a lot of Ohio, Michigan, New York, Pennsylvania transplants from everywhere. So we get a little bit of the culture from home without the snow and the crazy weather.
Yeah, I think you never truly feel like an outsider here, which I really like, because a lot of people say to me like, well, you're not from around here. But then they're not saying, I mean, I kind of said it in like an accusatory tone, but most people don't. They're like, hey, you're not from around here. And it's just interesting because like, no, I'm not from around here, but like neither is any
these pots.
Yeah. Yeah. But like neither is anyone. Like you ask a group of people, like we asked our life group at church, like where they were from. I think there were 2 people, maybe 3 people that grew up like anywhere near here.
Yeah.
Everyone else was like from Atlanta. I'm from Maine. It's just crazy.
Yeah, the minority is usually the person who has grown up in North Carolina.
Yep. And absolutely.
I always get a little excited. Ooh, a true Southerner.
Yeah, I think it's just nice. It's made it a very eclectic area because I think it's different from usually from Maine. Like if you ask your group of people, for the most part, like all of those people, were born or raised in Maine are still in Maine. And that's just like, I feel like that's kind of normal.
Their cars got snowed in and they could never leave.
Yep.
Exactly.
Truth.
30 years of winters and I'm still here.
Yes. It's still snowing. Just as a side note, my dad wrote us a letter and he said that it snowed 90 inches in Maine this season. I was like, oh my goodness.
It's not over.
It's still snowing probably today.
Oh yeah, probably. I do miss the snow. I do really enjoy like some sledding and all the winter festivities. I just don't like the cold, and unfortunately, they go hand in hand. So
I'm with you there. Like, can't we just sled and it be 70 degrees?
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
That'd be fun, actually.
That would be really fun.
We could go sliding in the mud, I guess.
Yeah, you can also do that on like the sandy hills. You can just sand surf. So I guess that would be the compromise.
That's what we're doing.
We'll have to give it a shot. And speaking of sports, I want you to talk about whirly ball because I want you to spread the sensation throughout, the whole Charlotte area, so that then we can get a whirly ball tournament. Is that what you would say?
Oh my God,
that would be awesome. That's the new purpose of this podcast.
Yes, we need a whirly ball.
That's why you're on, Kaela.
Yes. Okay,
Give it your best. Your best marketing.
I love whirly ball. My dad's family's huge. There's like 30 of us whenever we go out. And whirly ball is like a cross between bumper cars and basketball and lacrosse. And it is the most fun thing ever. Like, I just love it. So there's like 2 baskets on each side of like an electronic court essentially, and everyone's in like bumper cars except there are 2 colors. There's usually yellow and red, and you run around with like a little lacrosse-esque stick and try to whirl a wiffle ball around to other people in bumper cars on your team, and you try to just essentially score baskets while driving around in a bumper car, and it is fantastic. I wish it was here. I would build one myself if I had the funds because it would be amazing. I love it so much.
That sounds epic. And I love it. I've never done it, but I already love it.
if I ever find one here, open invite to anyone who's listening to this right now. We're going to Whirly Ball.
How are we going to make it happen, Miranda?
I don't know. Let's work on it.
When did you like first do that, Kaela? You said with your family, but like, did they just like, you know, were they like, was it like a family tradition, or were they like, hey guys, we're going to do this, and you were probably like, what?
Actually, the latter. Yes, that was exactly what happened. My parents and all of their friends and my like aunts and uncles used to all go play Whirly Ball. I'm like, what the heck is Whirly Ball?
Yeah, what are you doing?
They like planned this 21st birthday party for us at Whirly Ball, and we're like, oh, what is Whirly Ball? And then we got there and we're like, oh my god, this is amazing. I totally get it now. Let's come here every day.
Yes, I want to do it.
It's so fun.
We're going to have to do it. For sure, for real. Anyway. All right, Kaela, we'll transition a little bit. What would you say some of your long-term goals are? You can talk about long-term goals as far as what you want to do eventually career-wise, or, health and fitness-wise, or, I guess anything that you have. We always always ask our guests about their long-term goals, because it's just something we always recommend to our listeners just to be thinking about. I probably didn't have any goals until I was probably about 25. I didn't think about that. So we're just trying to get the word out as much as we can that having goals can just be fantastic, just for knowing where you're going, but also just for, just enjoying life a little bit more too. So if you want to just talk about that, and maybe you could even talk about, if you value goals as well, if you want to talk about that.
I definitely value goals. I think they're what keeps you motivated and what keeps you moving and progressing and changing. Change is hard. It's one of those things that's difficult to deal with, but in a lot of ways, it's what you need in your life. And for me, my goals, I have a lot. I want to go back to school. I would love to be a nurse anesthetist and go do trips to fix like cleft palates for little kids in other countries who otherwise would never have an opportunity to have that done. That's always been a goal of mine, to work with a company who goes and does things like that. It's kind of what's driving me to go to anesthesia school. Health and fitness is definitely a big one for me. I was pretty healthy at the start of nursing school, and my schedule got really stressful. I kind of lost an interest in working out, went through just some tough times. I lost an uncle in the midst of nursing school that I was really close to, and kind of went through some depression for a little bit there. But I am back with a great group of people at Camp Gladiator. I feel stable in my career, and I know that it's something that makes me feel good. And like I said before, there's just awesome people, so it's good in every way.
Yeah, I think being around other people is just one of the biggest things about that in general. Especially talking about health and fitness goals, I think it's just really helpful to have people just encouraging you and, going through it with you. So yeah, that's a great part of that.
Yeah, because you miss one or two workouts during the week, and you come back, everyone's gonna be like, "Where were you?
Yeah.
Where have you been?" And
where have you been?
They act like you haven't been there for weeks. It's like, it's been 2 days. There was traffic.
I tried to come, but I turned around.
Yeah.
I put my sneakers on. But I think it's so important if you are trying to achieve goals, to have those people to hold you accountable. That just really makes all the difference.
Absolutely.
Also, it would be funny if someone said, no, they don't value goals.
Yeah.
No, I don't need those. I'm good.
No, I'm waiting for that, because I'll be like, okay, to each his own, I guess.
I guess you could argue against goals if you really wanted to, but just no, I'm anti-goal. I'm pretty much perfect already. So.
I suppose you could do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Kaela, can you recommend first a book and then second a movie for our listeners?
This is a big question. Now, this doesn't have to be your favorite book or favorite movie, because I know that is really hard for some people to say, even myself included. So it's just one. Don't feel like you're, going to be held to it as your favorite book forever. We wouldn't do that to you.
Thank you. I'm always evolving, so my tastes change. But
yes, of course.
My favorite books. So admittedly and somewhat embarrassingly, I still really enjoy young adult novels, and Barnes and Noble is like a 5-minute walk from my house, so I spend a lot of time there.
There's
My
nothing wrong with that. Young adult books are great. I have no problem with those.
I
Yeah.
love them. I love them. I think they're like, I feel like I get lost in those more so than some of the other books that I've read. So
Some of them are just better written, I think. But
I
yeah,
agree.
we're with you.
I agree. Some of my favorites, a series that I really, really liked, it's a series called The Forest of Hands and Teeth. I'm big into scary stuff, and this one happened to be a zombie series that I remember I was like reading it, and I was on the elliptical, and I was just like sweating both from fear of what I was reading and actually exercising.
That's awesome.
I was like, I don't know why my heart rate's so high. Is it because I'm running or because I'm scared? I don't know which one. So that series was amazing. My best friend from home nursing school, her name is Samantha, she recommended this romance series, which I'm also somewhat embarrassed to admit that I read, but the series called The Lords of the Underworld. It's kind of a cross between like mythology with a little bit of romance thrown in there. It's all about like Pandora's box and angels and demons. And I love it. I was addicted in 2 pages. So definitely that series.
So you read a lot because you're saying series and, that's very cool.
That was one of the best things about graduating from nursing school, is I was finally able to stop reading textbooks and start reading books that I actually wanted to read. So that was kind of nice.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes. Movie-wise, that's a tough question. My family, my mom has always owned her own business and had a really busy, like 24/7 job. She's a real estate agent and owned her own company. So for us to escape and her to be able to turn her phone off, we always just went to the movies. And that's something that's just kind of stayed my whole life. That's what I remember doing. My grandparents go, like there were certain movies, all my cousins would get together and go. And I just love the movies. Some ones that I would recommend. Definitely all the Harry Potter movies I love. I am also a massive, massive fan of all of the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies. If you haven't seen those and you have an extra like 9 hours to spare.
I know. If you have a couple days.
Yes.
Exactly.
You see, for us, Lord of the Rings is like my all-time favorite. But we watched the first Hobbit movie, and I didn't like it at all. I don't know if I'm just like anti-dwarf or...
You might be. I didn't like it at all either, but...
No, I actually agree with you.
But there are a lot of people that really like that series.
Yeah.
I definitely like the Lord of the Rings series like 1,000 times better than The Hobbit. I thought that the second Hobbit was a lot better than the first one. Like, I thought the dragon stuff was so cool, but they killed that dragon off like real quick in the last movie, and then they just kind of lost me in that one. I was like, all right, this is boring, but...
Bring back the dragon.
Exactly.
Spoiler alert. 4 years later.
Yeah.
Cut. Just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, my brother Gib told me that I definitely had to watch the second and third movies, but I was like, But he said Benedict Cumberbatch does the voice of the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Which I didn't know.
You're going to watch it just for that
I should
reason.
watch it just for that because he's awesome. But
those
are great recommendations. Everyone should see those movies.
Yes, most definitely.
Yes, Lord of the Rings is the best.
Yeah, it's not just for nerds.
Are you also
like us.
A Star Wars fan as well?
I like Star Wars. I haven't seen them in a really long time. Like, I've seen the new ones, and when I mentioned that all my family gets together for movies, my dad's family's like got 30 people in it. We all went and like reserved a massive section of seats in the movie theater and saw Star Wars the last time I was in.
That's awesome.
I think my favorite one
just
recently.
Family events like that are so awesome. I love that because my family used to do that as well. I think that's just a great like plus for the movies right there when families can get together and just watch a movie together. It's so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome.
Yes, definitely.
And have you seen, this is random, but have you seen
Random's okay.
The Tomb Raider, the new Tomb Raider? We saw it last week.
I haven't yet. Was it good?
Yeah, she's so hardcore. It was awesome.
Yeah, she was great.
It was.
We still got to go see. Go ahead.
That's why we do CG, so we can all be Lorecraft in the end.
Yes.
Yes, that is my new life goal. That's my long-term goal. have arms. Like that. Yeah. Abs is going to be long term. Yeah. Arms is just long term.
We still got to go see Black Panther with you guys if you haven't seen that yet, because that movie was excellent. We talked about that movie in a recent podcast. We talked about Marvel. Yeah, Black Panther was great. One of the best.
Yeah, that was.
They're all. I would say all of them are one of the best. So it's hard to say. But
one of my all-time favorites is coming out soon. Deadpool 2, which I'm pretty stoked about. I know Miranda's not hip on that one, but I know that. Jordan
I'll go with, if you guys are going to see that, I'll go with you guys, because I definitely want to see that. Definitely bring me. Because Deadpool's awesome. Anytime. Ryan Reynolds is awesome. Yeah, the whole thing is just good.
I'll stay home and watch Diaries or something.
Yeah.
That's too much for me. But one last question for you, Kaela. Can you give a piece of advice, it's not really a question, to our listeners that you have about life in general, about goals? Because we know you like goals now.
Yeah, or like one thing that's just helped you along in your life, maybe just one little piece of wisdom. It doesn't have to be original. It can just be something that's helped you along your life path.
The things that have helped me are to always find and keep close the people who encourage you to pursue your goals.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, and to keep both long-term and short-term, because it's the little achievements and the little successes that are going to keep you moving and motivated to achieve that long-term goal. If you just have a long-term, you feel like you're never getting there, it's easy to be deterred and lose motivation. But people and short-term goals, I think, have definitely helped me a ton in my life.
That is great advice. Definitely keep those people that are a positive influence close by. They can be hard to find sometimes, so keep them close and, keep building that relationship.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's great, because that is so important, just to be just surround yourself with the right people. Now, we can't always choose the people we're going to be around, but a lot of times we can choose where we're gonna, who we're going to spend time with, who we're going to go out to dinner with, to go to the movie with, movies with, and all that. So I think whenever we can choose, it is important to be thinking about those positive people. Of course, because we always want to be a help to other people. We want to be a light to other people, but then, we have to fill up our own cups as well. And we can't do that if we spend all of our time with just people that bring us down. It's just not healthy. So that's awesome.
And just shout out to you guys. We moved here a while ago, and it's hard to find cool people sometimes, and we're just really thankful to have both of you as friends. My brother and I, we talk about you guys all the time. We say how awesome you are. Like, yeah, we're going to Friendsgiving with Jordan and Miranda.
We talk about you guys too.
Yeah, we do.
It's because you guys are nerdy like us. It's just like it's a good match.
I mean, sometimes you just gotta wear it like your hair, like Legolas. It's okay.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Miranda does have to do that sometimes. Yeah, you looked pretty BA when you were dressed up as Legolas. So
yeah,
for sure. I think that should be your Facebook profile picture.
I don't have a Facebook, but it would be.
Oh, that's right.
When you get it,
Jordan. Yes.
Should I just make that mine? That'd be very confusing. You're like, wow, Jordan, who is it? What?
We can get one of those combined Facebooks.
Yeah, no.
There you go.
I don't agree with that. We could have a whole podcast episode on that.
Yeah. That would be a fun topic.
That would be that's a good idea. Write that down. Okay. Jot it down in your mind.
I'm not writing it down.
I know you're not. She's not grabbing a pen. Anyway, Kaela, thank you so much for being on the show. We'll wrap this up. But any last thoughts on your end before we cut out?
I think Freedom Cast is amazing, and the people who perform the Freedom Cast are even more amazing. And I think perform was not exactly the correct word there, but it's the one I could think of off the top of my head. But yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. Sometimes we feel like we're
performing. Yeah.
But thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, not a problem at all, Kaela. We definitely appreciated you being on. Thank you for spending the time with us and just, spending a little bit of your Friday afternoon to jump on the show with us. We definitely appreciate your time, and me and Miranda both enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, it was awesome. I love hearing more about you, and, we can share your story with everyone else. There's someone out there that's thinking about making a big life change,
Yep.
Hopefully this inspires them.
Always
I hope
good, always
so.
inspiring. So thanks again, Kaela, for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.